bullpups. Party in the front, business in the back. Or Harbo manual of arms that are annoying to master. But they have their pros and cons. And today, we're gonna talk about them. And we're gonna spend a bunch of money on ammo. Now, some people say that bullpups are kind of like the original Dick. Party in the front, business in the back. I don't know about that. I think they serve more of a purpose than today's day and age says that males do, such that you can have a nice long barrel length and still have a short package. That's what she said. But if you are gonna shoot a bullpup and spend your money on them, there's some important things to keep in mind. And that is the topic of today's video, after I spend some more money. Little personal. Just can't get it. Don't judge me, we've all had that problem. Now, some people say that this is like shooting a nail gun. I personally think it's more like a stapler. Either way, it's a terrible trigger. But that's what we've come to expect from bullpups. Sorry, Steyer, but you know it's true. I still love you. This is the best vibe ever. But the trigger. We all know what I'm talking about. This just in, the producer wants me to be inclusive, so I gotta talk crap about all these guns. You know what's not in is this magazine, because it won't seat with the bullet to the rear on a full mag. But we found a way. I call this one questionable foreign policy. Speaking of absolutely totally American-made, designed, and produced weapons, right, Springfield? We have the Hellion. It's great if you want that Starship Troopers vibe. At least it's not a Saint. Oh, by the way, Springfield, thanks for the free gun. I actually think this one's my favorite. Don't tell me, buddy. I have a reputation to maintain. I think I'm gonna patent that reload. Now that I've finished being wildly unfair and snarky about what are actually some pretty interesting firearms, let's go back to the studio because it's raining, hot, and sunny all at once here. And that makes me cranky. To the sky! All right, and we are off the somehow simultaneously sunny, rainy, and hot range to talk more in depth about these fine bullpups behind me. Now, while it's easy to be snarky about bullpup because they do have some very particular drawbacks, they have existed for a long time for a reason. Now, before I get into these particular guns, we're gonna go over features and kind of the idea behind bullpups, but if you want a deep dive into every single one of those, operating systems, history, all that, go over to Forgotten Weapons. He has great videos on all these guns, so check that out if you want the super nerdy details on all of those guns behind me, and bullpups in general. First, we're gonna talk about the Deserte. First off, when you pick it up, you're gonna notice one of the heavier bullpups you're gonna run. Now, there's some pros and cons to that. One, it is very soft shooting because of the weight, but two, if you're walking around with this thing a lot and carrying it, well, it's heavier. Also, it is a little bit more expensive than the rest of these guns, but we'll also notice that this is definitely the most accurate of all of the bullpups that we've been working with, and that's no surprise given Deserte's pedigree. The nice thing I like about this is it is one of the more modern and customizable bullpups out there, and bullpups, because of their design, do present some challenges with customization and accessories, and Deserte did a good job here with this rail system that we added. The nice thing about it is it does have M-LOK. You can add your accessories up top if you want it, but it's also got these integrated bipods that just pop out. They are adjustable for height, which is super cool. But one of the notes is that if you are running this thing suppressed or you're shooting it a lot, the buttons that release the bipods will get a little hot, so gloves or caution is recommended. It does come with your QD mounts if you're gonna run your sling in the front and back, which is super cool. Ambidextrous charging handles, ambidextrous safety, which is very nice. It has 2 magazine releases right here and back here. Otherwise, pretty standard. You can change the ejection side, which is super nice, and it's an adjustable gas system if you're gonna run it suppressed, unsuppressed, different loads, all that kind of jazz. This does have by far the best bullpup trigger ever. In fact, this is just a nice rifle trigger in general, and with bullpups, that is really saying something because the trigger linkage has to go all the way to the rear. That's a really nice thing to see. And this also leads, I think, to some of the inherent accuracy that we're seeing with the system. Rails built in with 20 MOA, so it's going to raise your optics up a little bit, which is great if you're going to run night vision or you just got a longer neck, bigger person. Works pretty well. Now, before we get into the AUG, and there's plenty to say about it, why would you want a bullpup? What's the point? Well, I'm not breaking new wind, as they say, by talking about the point of bullpups, but the idea basically is you're moving the operating system and the action to the rear, so you get a longer barrel with a shorter overall length. So for instance, here we have a 16-inch barrel, and the action here is at the rear, the magazine goes in the rear, but the gun is much shorter than a standard AR with a 16-inch barrel. Downside of that, of course, is that there are some unique design challenges with your trigger linkage, your action being back here, so the explosion's happening, it's outgassing in your face, it's ejecting near your face, which can really be a pain in the butt and or lip if you're a left-handed shooter. And there's some ways to get around that, which we'll go over. Generally speaking, life is just about trade-offs, right? So you're gonna get some advantages and you're gonna lose some advantages with the bullpup design, but that's the idea behind them. Maintain barrel length, thus velocity, range, and lethality, a shorter overall package. Now, specifically the AUG, first off, this thing is a vibe. It's been around forever. It's been a lot of conflicts. It's been a lot of very cool multimedia out there that you may be familiar with. And it uses these super cool waffle mags. However, of course, it does use USGI mags too with a different magazine insert. Overall, this is an early polymer gun, at least originally. It does have some upgradable rails nowadays if you want to add more accessories. It's still one of the sort of harder guns to modify in the bullpup category, but we do think it looked great with this EOTECH 512 on top because, come on, that is just a vibe. Really takes me back to the old, French Foreign Legion days in Africa. Also, it does have one of the coolest quick change barrel systems, but all you do is there's a little button over here, you depress that, and you're gonna turn the handle a little bit and pull the bolt to the rear, of course, and the barrel will actually just come out, which is really, really nice because originally this was designed to be able to be a light machine gun, a shorter barreled CQB weapon, or your general infantry weapon with the standard length barrel. Also, you can see these threads here. There's a variety of attachments and barrel designs and all kinds of stuff they went through because this was originally a military weapon. Now, the AUG suffers from pretty much all the classic gripes about bullpups. Safety, little awkward, right? So bullets forward, chambers empty magazine. We're going to, boom, show clear. You can lock the charging handle to the rear. It'll also just stay back with an empty magazine, right? So we're gonna lock it up, kind of like an MP5, pull the mag out, pull the bolt forward, and now the safety, you can manipulate it. It's a cross-bolt safety. It's a little clunky, it's a little big. It's kind of hard to get to, especially if you're running like guns up, doing CQB or like modern patrolling or whatever. It's kind of hard to activate. The trigger is profoundly bad. We're gonna do this together and you can kind of hear just the creep, and it sounds like a staple gun. It feels like a staple gun to shoot. It's a bad trigger. Sorry, Steyr. We all know it's true. But is it usable? Yes. Has this been used in conflicts all over the world successfully? Of course. It's just not what we've come to expect in the US market with most rifle triggers. You can add some rails and add some more accessory space to the AUG these days. It does have a sort of classic look, and this grip actually works really well. Depending on your hand size, I find it actually very comfortable to grab the grip here and actually index my thumb on the charging handle. I know some people will probably yell at me on the internet for that, but that's fine. And it works well because my hand's here, so if I need to go ahead and use that to lock the bolt to the rear, it works really well for that. Small rail up here, enough room for an optic, maybe a thermal if you're into that kind of thing. And then we've got your left side eject. So it's gonna be fine if you're a right-handed shooter. If you're a left-handed shooter, however, it's gonna probably smack the brass right into your face, which is unpleasant. The magazine release isn't hard to use once you get used to it, but if you're used to reloading ARs, it's gonna take a second to get used to, but you can sort of get your thumb up in there, grab the mag, and release it. But like I said, training is important when it comes to bullpups. Sling options are definitely the most limited on the AUG compared to the rest of these bullpups, but you can run a sling on it. It's pretty lightweight, it's a polymer gun, and it's a vibe. Oh, sure, came with it, why not? Yeah, it's fine, everything's fine. It's fine, the wall's coming apart. Not a big deal. Fix that in post. All right, so the Tavor. Honestly, maybe one of my favorite bullpups ever. Helligan's a close second. Hate me all you want on the internet for liking a Springfield product, but that thing's pretty neat, but we'll get to that later. So the Tavor by IWI, this is a extremely combat-proven weapon. Whether you like bullpups or not, whether you like how the Israeli military does CQB, hey, fair enough. We can argue about that online all day long. But the point is that this is a very interesting design. It's got these nice rail covers up front. It does have your standard 1/2x28 threaded, so if you want to suppress it, you can. It comes with the Birdcage flash hider, which works great. But it's got nice Picatinny on the bottom and the sides if you want to add your accessories. Nice long Picatinny rail up top for all your different optics options. And it does have QD points for your slings up front and in the rear. This is interesting that it has the magazine release here like we're used to. It has a nice safety, very much reminiscent of the AR, and a pretty decent trigger, which again is always nice to see for bullpup. You can change the ejection side on this to left or right, depending on what hand you shoot from. And then again, the bolt release is back here. So the nice thing about that is when you're doing your reloads, you can, if the bolt is locked to the rear, right, and we insert a magazine, you just hit that button back here and the mag goes forward. So that can be pretty quick if you train with it, but again, as always, training is key. Overall, Tavor is very light. It's pretty accurate. You can shoot it very quickly. And it's got room for most of your modern accessories. You're gonna run into a little bit of a weird recoil impulse just with the weight of the internals, and it's all slamming back right here into your shoulder. So unless you're super tall and got really long arms, this is gonna actually probably fit you pretty well. Some people don't like the cover here for the grip on the front, but again, everything with bullpups is a trade-off. Now, again, if you want to get into the nerdy guts of how this thing runs and all that, like I said, go check out Forgotten Weapons video on that because Ian did a great job. But it's a pretty cool rifle, and it's definitely got some of your modern warfare vibe, if you know what I mean. So, pretty cool. So, the Hellion. Honestly, this may be my favorite bullpup ever. Some of that is because it looks like it's out of Starship Troopers.
I'm doing my part.
And, you know, if you want to be a citizen, you got to join, right? No, do your part. That's not the point. The Hellion is light. It's accurate, trigger's not bad, you can shoot it fast. It's fun. I come from a military background. I think of fighting rifles within the AR platform. That's where my mind goes if I'm talking about work guns. But guns are also super fun to shoot. Now, there are plenty of people all over the world who have done a lot of real world work with bullpups. So I'm not saying they're not applicable for that. But when I look at bullpups, it's more of a fun range toy for me. And this thing, it's just fun to shoot. It's not that expensive. It's got an interesting military pedigree with it being the VHS from the Czech Republic. Obviously, Springfield rebranded this the Hellion when they imported it. It's not full auto anymore, unfortunately. But it's got an adjustable stock. It's got an adjustable comb height. The magazine release is back here with the mag, which honestly, with bullpups, I kind of did because you just reach back here, knock that out. I can drop the bolt release right here. The safety is honestly a little bit awkward to manipulate. It's not quite in line with your thumb the way an AR safety is, but the charging handle does go to both sides, so however you want to manipulate that, whichever hand you're shooting from, it does work. And the rail is elevated enough where, honestly, even if you're running night vision and laser, you probably don't need a riser. You certainly can do that. It's got M-LOK up front, so you obviously can run your foregrips and your lights and that kind of stuff. If you're running a laser, I would suggest running it on the top rail because I'm not totally confident this is gonna hold zero. And it's got an adjustable gas block. So if you wanna run it suppressed, it'll certainly work for that. I like that it uses AR grips. Overall, it's kind of a neat gun. And honestly, it's just got that like Eastern European meets Starship Troopers fighting rifle vibe. And I dig that. Now, whether or not that's your thing, that's okay. It's your money. You do what you want. I'm not your dad. But I like the Hellion. It works well for me. I know it's Springfield. I know we all like hating on Springfield and the XD Online, and that's fun. That's what Reddit's for. But if you want to actually talk about spending money and buying guns that might be valuable to you, you should consider this. Does it have some drawbacks? Yes. It's a bullpup. It's going to be a little bit more awkward to use than your AR. But it's feature-rich-ish. Insofar as that you can, change the ejection port side, takes AR mags. It'll actually take multiple different kinds of magazines depending on how you want to do that. And it's got enough space for all your modern accessories. It's got the longest optics rail out of anything here, even the Deserte. And it's got the most adjustable length of pull and your comb height. So if you want to run a magnified optic, you want to run a HWS, something like that, just make sure you're buying EOTECH. If you're not, what are you doing? I don't know. The Hellion works well for me. It doesn't really matter what gun you're using if you haven't trained with it. You haven't put the time and effort into you, because honestly, if you're investing in guns and you're not investing in yourself, what are you doing? So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you get down in the comments, tell me all the things that I don't know and I said wrong, because that helps our engagement, and we really appreciate that. And at the end of the day, finally, like, so you sort of end your day and then you go to bed, that one, get out there and train, because honestly, that's what matters. You know, touch grass, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, whatever Grantham says. So if you have any comments or questions about bullpups, any of the other guns we ever shoot, guns in general, please put those down below, reach out on social media, give our customer service guys a call. They're just sitting around waiting to talk to you, so hey, don't let them be bored. So get out there, train, be awesome. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Yeah, you know, that's kind of bullpups in a nutshell, isn't it? Can you believe I get paid to do this? Not much, but, you know, technically. Yeah, that's fun.